What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer, taking a look back again at Invoked Spellbook. So I'm kind of going through it, refining my list every day. And I liked my list where it was. Like when I did the deck profile, obviously, I made a video about it. But there's something like just slightly missing from the deck. I need a little bit more oomph. And I think I found it. I think I found it big time. So this doesn't seem immediately noticeable, like Parallel Exceed. Like, what would you even use that for? So what I found was when I was testing, doing a bunch of test hands, because I bought this deck in real life, I always feel like I was one card off. If I could just get the top card off my deck, my hand would be completely unlocked, and my hand would be buku bonkers. I actually have the opportunity to do that. So let me show you how this all works. So, okay, so this hand, I'll just tell you right off the bat, like, if this is like, if you could hand pick your hand to start a duel with, it'd probably be this, like maybe other than, I don't know, Super Poly or something. But if you were going first and you could hand pick a hand to have it be whatever you wanted it to be, this is what it would look like. And this is just like a randomly generated hand, but it's just so crazy. So terraforming in the deck is it's not one of the bigger changes, but it is a change I made in the deck. One terraforming is equal to 3 spell cards, right? You search, terraforming is 1, meltdown is 2, search invocation off the Alistair, and then activate it. So that's a bunch of spells. So that's 3 spells in and of itself from 1 spell card. That's what makes this card so good. So that's 1 spell counter. Here comes 2, searching Alistair. And this is where it gets kind of crazy. So I can normal summon Alistair to add invocation. Then I can link this off into, yes, Salamangreat Almirage, a cyber fire monster. Okay, maybe that didn't come up before or ever become relevant other than being fire, but it's a fire cybers monster. Now, if you will look at Salamangreat Almirage, its zone points towards your zone, meaning if you link summon, you can special summon this card from your hand to your zone that a link monster points to, which is going to trigger the Cybers effect, which is a wind, by the way, triggering its effect to bring out a buddy from the deck. So I'm going to go ahead and bring out another Parallel Exceed. Okay, so it's like, where am I going with this? A rank 4, perhaps? I could side in Abyss Dweller. I don't have room for it right now. It's something that you would put in this side. But what I can do, there's no restrictions on these. So when it's special summoned by the effect, it becomes level 4. That's it. That's all it does. You can use it as link material. You can use it as a rank 4 engine. Or you can link them off into IP Masquerena. It's 2 non-link monsters, so they can be the same monster. Those are 2 non-link monsters. So again, it's like, what is this? IP Masquerena, Salamangreat Almirage. Okay, this can be used as link material. This can also be used as link material. This is a dark Cybers. This is a fire Cybers. So I can go into a rank 3. Yes, a rank 3 known as Decode Talker Heatsoul. If you do not know what this card does, it's just a pot of greed. Like it's you get multiple pot of greeds in this deck, which is kind of wild. So you get the quick effect, pay 1,000, draw a card. So then obviously you get to do it during your opponent's turn. So it's like a slower pot of greed. But if you think about it in terms of like if your opponent doesn't get rid of it, first of all, this is a non-destructionable Decode Heatsoul. Okay, and it's gonna have 2 monsters pointing towards. Okay, it's 500 for each. It's kind of like the original Decode Talker. So now I can use invocation, but more importantly from what I was doing before, okay, this is really important. I can go into Invoked Raijin. This is protection for Jowgen when it comes out, right? You get the Book of Moon, their normal summon. So before it was Invoked Macabre, but if all you had was Invoked plays and nothing else, you know, to go a spellbook, then you had Macabre, but, you know, if your opponent normal summons, there's nothing to negate. So there's my 3rd spell counter. This gains 500 attack, which is great, right? This is a wind monster. It's nuts. So I'm going to draw a card here. So the idea behind drawing a card is like, why don't you use Nadir Servant to search? Okay, the idea is, well, if I use the draw and I draw into Jowgen, I have to send it back, or else the combo is not useless, but much, much worse. So I'd rather draw a card first to make sure it's not Jowgen. Any card you draw is good, right? A free +1, that's good. So that's why I did it that way. Now I'm going to go ahead and use Nadir Servant. Like if I drew into one of the ritual stuff, like everything would change. So any draw that you make is good. So there's my 4th spell counter. Now I can go ahead, I didn't mean to do that when I was doing this. I can go ahead and special summon Ecclesia, And Ecclesia can go ahead and add me Dogmatika Punishment. So then I can go to the end phase, activate the effect to add Fleur. Now I can use the effect of Judgment to bring out Jowgen and go, yes, +4, which is just kind of crazy. I'm actually going to, I think this last card, I'm actually going to take out Spellbook of Wisdom. Because I want to reduce the deck down to 40 cards. I think that's really important. This card is okay. Maybe it's something that you include. Maybe it's something you not. I'm a little bit back and forth on this. It's like, is there really a big difference between 42 and 43 or 40 cards? It is. It ends up being kind of minimal. So I don't know. I'm still testing this, but when you're going like blind second and you open this, it feels very bad. It feels very, very bad. But that is the first combo. And then obviously during your opponent's turn, draw phase, you get to draw a card. I draw into Nadir Servant. So I get to have insane follow-up, just absolutely bananas. I didn't even use Invocation because I didn't have enough cards to put in my hand before I was forced to discard, because you have to discard during the end of your turn. So I have a Book of Moon. Your opponent can't special summon monsters. Dogmatika Punishment, Ass Blossom, Fleur if they get over this somehow or negate it. Which is it's just pretty darn good with, like I said, crazy follow-up. So we're just going to keep going here. Again, this is kind of a crazy hand. So that can go ahead and search Judgment. Judgment can go ahead and activate Terraforming. You just kind of saw this again. So, Magical Meltdown can grab me Alistair the Invoker, Normal Summon. Having the extra Alistair isn't the greatest thing in the world, but it's also not the worst. So I can use Parallel Exceed. You're going to see this very often. IP Masquerena, Heatsoul, third. And now I can go ahead and search. I'm not really too worried about anything at this point. Let's see what I get off the top. It's a Nadir Servant. Unbelievable. And that's the cool thing about this deck, is that there's pretty much only good draws. You're just playing good cards in this deck. So anything you get is going to be beneficial to you. But this is one of the best interactions. So I hard opened Ecclesia, but off the top I get Nadir Servant. You can go ahead and send Herald of the Arclight. Herald of the Arclight's going to search, right? This has 500 attack. And that's going to search Dogmatika Calamity. So that's 4 spell counters, or 4 spell activations. I can go ahead and use Dogmatika Calamity, sending the Titanclad, special summoning the Ritual White Knight of Dogmatika. And then during the end phase, I can go ahead and add a Fleur and also just go +5. Which is like obviously ridiculous. This is also kind of like another especially good thing, because I'm going to go ahead and discard Alistair during my turn, which is great, because what's going to happen is I'm going to activate Invocation to start my turn next, and you get double fusion, right? This is the activation of fusion summoning is not a once per turn. The add back is a once per turn. So during my opponent's turn, all I have to do is activate Invocation, normal summon, you just get to loop your cards over and over again, which is great. It's a very, very good thing to do. So that is the second replay. Here is the third one. So sometimes you have to get a little bit creative with your accounting. I don't know, however you want to say it. So you would think that this is bricky, like how are you going to use Parallel Exceed? But, Salmon Almirage, all it requires is a normal summon monster with 1,000 or less attack. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Almirage, triggering Exceed, bringing it out, going into the IP Masquerena, giving myself a protected Heatsoul, and then I get to draw a card. So a lot of opportunity here. Now the good thing is that I have Spellbook of Knowledge and Fate. So worst case scenario, I can use the Spellbook of Knowledge on the Fate. I'd rather keep it if I can, but I got to see what I can do. So I'm going to go ahead and special summon there, go for the Ecclesia. Again, I want to give myself every opportunity. If I am able to activate more spell cards, because I have Judgment on the board, I want to be able to protect Jowgen. That's kind of the whole idea. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a couple cards, and this is just very good. So I draw into Terraforming, just gives me a second counter. Just activating spells to activate spells. So now I have a double protected Jowgen plus Ash Blossom plus Droll and Lockbird. Plus I get to go +3. So like this is a bad hand with crazy follow-up, Alistair follow-up, Spellbook of Knowledge, Secrets, Fate is an interruption during my opponent's turn. Very, very good. And then during my opponent's turn, on top of all of that, I get to draw an extra card. So like that's just insane, of course. Just keeping going along again. You just get so many, like all the spellbook cards are just very, very good. They kind of all search each other. So any card gets you anywhere. These are all parallel Exceed hands, by the way. It's kind of the whole point of the video. So I'm just going to try to go kind of quickly through this one. Heatsoul, I can activate. I can go for, Ecclesia. This is kind of just standard, very similar to last hand. just to show you, how consistent this deck can be. Which is really just the same hand, but like all the cards search each other, right? Magical Meltdown search Alistair, Spellbook of Secrets, Blue Boy searches itself, Ecclesia searches everything. Every card you have in your deck essentially pluses you. So this one is like kind of weird. So it's like, now there's no way you can use Paralytic Seed. Again, a normal summon monster with 1,000 less attack. All of your hand traps are now starters in your deck. So it's cool to see them kind of have a dual purpose. I don't have access to, my Spellbook of Judgment, but you can still just do regular stuff. Like, that's not your win. I mean, it's kind of your win condition, but it's not the main win condition. You can still give yourself a bunch of, disruption during your opponent's turn with crazy follow-up. So I can go for White Knight, boosting the attack there. I can set, and then during the end phase, I can activate this, bring out a Ecclesia to bring this up to, its full attack value, which I think is 3,200. And then during my opponent's turn, I get to draw a card, which ended up being Joel and Lockbird, which is kind of funny because I used it to normal summon. So what is this? So this is a good interruption during your opponent's turn, getting rid of those one-ofs, right? A lot of tier decks only run one, like Elf. That would be obviously very good. But you also get to send a card. So you also get to send something like Nadir Servant during, your opponent's turn, which is obviously just very, very good. So like I would consider this a bad hand. And it's obviously just not a bad hand at all. We can just keep going here. This just looks like a very, very good hand. So Judgment, whenever you see Judgment and Secrets in your hand, very, very good. So I can go ahead and search Knowledge. And I can, link that off, go into Almirage. You can see here, Heatsoul's like, that is the oomph that I was looking for. And I think it definitely makes a huge difference, especially being protected from destruction of card effects. It's going to be hard to get around like a 3,300 attack body that can't be destroyed. That's just one layer of it too. So I can just draw a couple cards, during this one. And it's not bad. All I need to do was activate 3 spell cards, which is what I did, during my opponent's turn. So I still get all the interruption that I need, plus the follow-up. Now, this was a good idea by me, where like for testing, I think this is the way that you do it. So Ash Dragon lets you special summon from the deck. I might as well summon Maximus because Fleur isn't doing anything. Ecclesia doesn't really do anything other than search Maximus. So when I have this on the board, at least I can use it for interruption during my opponent's turn, right? The idea is I get to send Nadir Servant. I can send like Cypherame Gear Gamma. Wind Pegasus is an option. So many things are obviously very good to send to the graveyard in this deck. That's the whole idea. So I get to do that. And like this is, the follow-up ends up being interruption too. And then during my opponent's turn, I get to draw an extra card. I've talked about this a lot, but this deck is literally just a numbers game. The idea is that you're trying to beat your opponent out. Again, this is one of those hands where I don't have access to Spellbook of Judgment, but the hand is still very good. So Alistair, like your end board's going to be crazy. Plus, I have Super Poly. Plus, whatever I draw off a Heatsoul. So this is definitely going to be a staple in my deck. I don't think I can play it any other way. And luckily, Heatsoul is a very affordable card. I was nervous about that. So I'm just kind of spitballing at this point, searching as much interruption as I can. So no Spellbook of Judgment or Fate online. That's kind of unfortunate, but I think that's something that I can live with. I have really good follow-up. So I have Alistair for next turn. I have Super Poly, Judgment, a Book of Moon, and then, of course, during my opponent's turn, I get to draw a card. And that ends up being Spellbook of Knowledge, which is going to be very useful going second. So unless your opponent kills you, which seems just kind of unlikely given the situation, like there's no way that you're not going to be able to just get the lead based off cards alone. Plus Super Poly is a very good interruption. These are all solid forms of interruption. They're not just like wishy-washy, you know what I mean? So that is, the deck as it is now. I'll probably do another deck profile soon, but I think that's really cool. I mean, I think I've never seen anyone do this before, and I'm sure I'm not the first one, but man, it's a very cool interaction with Paralytic Seed. And just having access to Raijin, a Pot of Greed, it does so much for the deck. It's kind of unreal how much better it is with these cards. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.